Hello, everybody. Let's try a new start. It is Monday night here, and our guests are oftentimes in the tomorrow for us. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to BioBridge, where we talk about connecting the land of the rising sun, Japan, to the rest of the world in anything life science, anything that has to do with MedTech, Biopharma, devices, what else? Diagnostics. Theranostics. That's a word I really like.
That's a new one. Radiopharmaceuticals.
That could be relevant. How you doing, Ibrahim?
I'm good. Yourself?
So Ibrahim, recently we've been talking about trying to come up with more offerings, more ways we can contribute to this bridge that crosses the Pacific. From Japan to the outside world, or from the outside world into Japan, and we're talking a lot about the various needs. And today, our guest will be somebody who's I think more on the inbound, helping traffic come into Japan and establishing in Japan. So really market access, and he is our Dai Senpai. For those who don't speak Japanese, Dai Senpai is somebody who's been there, done that. In front of you, oftentimes within the same institution or organization, somebody who's graduated before you at school, somebody who's entered a company before you, who teaches you, who mentors you, who leads you to success. That's a Dai Senpai. So we've been very, very fortunate to have his time. So
and the guy who beats you up. No.
There's different ways of seeing that. Yes. All right, but let's bring Rob Claar on screen. Hello, Rob. How are you doing?
Hello, Rob.
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know you're extremely busy with all your successes in the past year, but thank you so much for sharing your time. I think the people who are the most generous are those who share their time. And so I really want to thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. We've been following you on LinkedIn with all your successes and feats, and I reached out to you a few weeks ago. It's the first time I've reached out to you, and right away like, all right, let's go. Love to go on BioBridge. So thank you so much for being so approachable and down to earth. But who's Rob Claar? Why do we have you on today? As what kind of a background you have? Why are you in Japan? And all that jazz leading to HekaBio.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. So I'll give you the abbreviated version. But Rob Claar, great to meet and interact with your audience today. Thanks so much, Tetsu and Ibrahim, for having me on. I grew up in the Midwest, school on the East Coast of the U.S., and decided to come to Japan for cultural reasons. I wanted to learn the language and study the art and culture. I thought I'd be here for a year, so I came to Japan. I was in Tokyo for one night, and then saw that Tokyo was going to be easier to get by in English and easy to be lazy. So I sent myself down to Nagoya, put myself into language school, and studied Japanese as much as I could, while teaching English on the side to pay my rent.
Wow, one of those. Well, English teacher.
Yeah. And so I did that. It took me about a year and a half to 2 years to get good enough at Japanese. Moved up to Tokyo and was very lucky to get hired by a think tank, because I realized that working at a consultancy would be a great way to learn a little bit about a lot of things, which I thought, at that point I was thinking, now that I can speak some Japanese, should I move on to the next location? Should I go back to the US? What should I do? And ended up joining a think tank, which was wonderful. And really the day after I joined, that company had secured an enormous project from, at that time, the Ministry of Health, in order to study the healthcare system of Japan and write white papers. So sort of a ghostwriting team for the white papers of the Ministry of Health. So this is an amazing job, right? So we got to research topics such as, what should Japan do to prepare for the aging of society or the ultra aging of society? What's going to happen with Japan's birth rate and how can we improve it? All these types of big open-ended issues that have not been solved yet today, but got to study that, comparisons of Japan's healthcare system with those around the world. And looking into that then also gave me a window into meeting one-on-one with some doctors, particularly around the countryside. And so that was fascinatingly eye-opening because I was able to get insights from doctors firsthand about, what do they think works well with the Japanese healthcare system, what doesn't, what are their frustrations, and
in Japanese. There's a youngster
in Japanese, yeah.
That's
So
pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
I surprised myself and also my team by being able to bring back to the office some really interesting insights. What that doctor told you that, and they couldn't believe that I'm getting these very personal insights back from the doctors. And so I learned that, surprisingly, I had this particular skill for one-on-one interviewing with people and getting some really deep insights from people. And so I really, ran with that for a while. After leaving the think tank, I started up a consultancy in order to do more of that. And then over time, I was, rather than working with large companies that had the budgets to pay for consultants, I wanted to get closer to the innovators. And so started up a CRO, clinical research organization, in order to bring, accelerate more companies into Japan, because it goes back to the.
What's the timeline here? Because a few minutes ago you were an English teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
You're talking to doctors, getting key insights, and suddenly you're the boss of a CRO. My goodness.
Yeah, well, it took time. So right now I think, and I think we've got such a great business model at HekaBio, and I wish I had thought of it sooner, but I didn't. So it took me a long time to get to what I think of now as the ideal business model. But it starts with the insight or the inspiration from the doctors who are saying that when they're on the world stage and they're attending European or US medical conferences with their peers, they're frustrated with the fact that their peers are doing research and doing practice on one generation more advanced technology. So we have to wait 3 to 5 years to get these technologies into Japan. Rob, what can you do to help us? And at that point, nothing. But I decided that in my career, I'd like to try to help and solve this frustration of the pace at which innovations come into Japan. So it's taken me a long time to get to that point. I was in the consulting world for 20 years. After which I then started up the CRO, ran that for 9 years before selling, and also had a women's health company that started up within the CRO during that period, sold that as well. Now at HekaBio, actually we started HekaBio at the same time as we were running the CRO. So the CRO lifespan was 9 years before selling, but 3 years in to the CRO, we started HekaBio in order to do a slightly more risky but greater upside business model, which we're at the CRO, we're proving that we can get people's approvals and commercial traction and build their business in Japan so that we can hand it over to their acquirer or to their local entity. And a lot of fortunes were made for very good people and very good friends. And we wanted to be more involved in the upside. And so rather than, getting paid as a service provider to bring those successes to bear, we wanted to come in and take a piece of the action. And we realized that for the CRO business, the companies that wanted to get into Japan had already secured an approval in the US or were just about to secure an approval in the US. And so we were, moving them into Japan nearly simultaneously, in some cases simultaneously, but usually as a fast follower to US approval. And so we realized that if we're going to do an in-licensing business model, which we do at HekaBio, we need to get involved a little bit earlier. So it needs to take on a slightly greater risk aspect, but we can also rely on our experience and expertise in getting those approvals to build a business that we can actually participate in the upside of. So that was really the genesis of how I got to HekaBio.
Okay, well, we definitely want to devote a good chunk of time to really understanding HekaBio, your model. But you've mentioned English teacher, think tank, and then a CRO, and then HekaBio. So you've got a few steps before that. Well, these few steps gave you, let's say, one lesson each that allowed you to create HekaBio. What would you say? Even from the English teacher time, English teacher, the think tank, there's one lesson from each that you use today in HekaBio that made HekaBio what it is today. And then I would love to really know in depth. So what are you doing at HekaBio?
What a great question. Wow. So you're making me think. But there's one that's very clear though. As an English teacher, what I learned is how important it is to listen to people and try to understand also their thinking process. So as a teacher or as a listener or as a manager or as a leader, if you can understand the thought process of someone who you're interacting with, then it helps you to understand what they're not understanding, where they're confused, where they're not buying in to something. And so for an English learner, that's super important, because if as the teacher you can intuit, okay, this is the missing piece where this person needs an input, and that's going to really help their English take off. And if you can understand where their mind has a block, where there's a missing piece, then you can input that, right? So understanding really, are people understanding? Are people confused? Are they blocking? Are they, where's the misunderstanding? So I think being an English teacher really helped me to bring that.
Rob should have been you should have been a doctor, Rob.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but you were the one listening to the doctors, and these doctors, they could have just said, "You're an English teacher. What are you doing in my office?" Right? But they're opening up. They're giving you the personal insights and everything. How did that happen?
So this was also a surprise to me, because sometimes a surprise, how open and inviting the doctors were in those early days. But it really helped me to build my career and then build the consultancy after that. And really, going in with, first of all, being honest. So, when you're talking with a doctor, when I'm talking with a doctor, I don't pretend to be a doctor or even a scientist of any sort. If there's something, I'll do my research beforehand to have an intelligent conversation. But if there's things that I don't understand, I'm going to be honest about what I'm not understanding, and please explain that in another way, so that I can, and in order to get those better insights. And I think doctors are really receptive to that.
Would you say that, I think possibly that Japanese doctors, they look very scary, and a lot of people, put them at very, very high regard, but at the same time they're like, kimono wear, like people like above the clouds kind of feeling. But when you're authentic and you're really showing that you're sincere in what you're doing, you're working hard, they see that, and they'll open up. Is that your experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, talking with doctors, connecting with doctors is the same as connecting with any other people that are, and treat them like the experts that they are, and treat them with that respect. But also, you can have a peer-to-peer conversation with them on very complex topics, and it makes sure that you're bringing some value to the relationship as well. Early on, that was easy for me because some of the doctors were preparing for English language presentations at overseas conferences, and so it was easy for me to jump in and say, "Hey, I'll help you with that."
Wow.
That's
Okay.
a smart
Okay.
approach.
There you go. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So that was,
Okay.
these days that's not really necessary anymore, but there are also ways to be helpful. And I think, the doctors are highly motivated by their clinical practice, by the patient that they see in front of them, by, how can we get more innovations into Japan quicker for the benefit of the patients and their families.
Yes.
They're very sincere.
Mhm.
I'm always impressed with Japanese doctors, and as it's a very socialistic system where doctors are employees of the hospital. If they do another patient case, they're not paid anymore. So it's really altruism that motivates them and patient care. But the patient care in Japan is so good and can be even better by the efforts that we bring.
So 20 years of speaking to doctors, getting insight, learning the ropes for as a consultant, you suddenly become the boss of a CRO.
Yeah.
My timeline's correct. CRO, when I went from Eisai to, it was called Covance in those days. This is 2012. That was a huge shock for me coming from the pharma side. I can't imagine, you're going from the consulting side. It must have been very hard. How did that come about, and what was again the learning thing that built into it?
Yeah, like especially operationally, right?
Yeah, very difficult for somebody from pharma to really imagine the operations. It's completely different.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to that period where I'm in a board meeting somewhere in the U.S. and I realized that as a consultant, we're talking a lot about innovation, but really I wanted to get closer to the real innovators rather than help the big companies buy the small companies. And so I realized that as a consultant to big companies, I'm not really living up to the quote unquote promise that I felt that I had made to Japanese doctors early on in my career with, how can we bring true innovations into Japan faster? And so, at some point I thought that, okay, this is a very successful consultancy, but I need to do something different. And so I sold out my portion of, to management and ensured that the company would continue. The Japan portion of it was carved out and sold to a large Japanese company, the U.S. and European operation in the hands of the management. And then I was able to sort of take a rest and think of what I wanted to do next. So what is the real bottleneck of why companies are not coming into Japan? And I think, it's small companies have to focus on their home market, and they think that Japan is a black box. It's difficult to get into, but what if we could make things easier for them? And now companies who've made a decision to get into Japan, they'll look and they'll potentially hire a CRO or consultancy to do that for them. And once they've made that decision, but then it's difficult. Why would a company pause coming into Japan when you see it as the top, depending on the product, it's going to be top 2 to 4 markets in the world for your product. So why wouldn't you think of coming in? But people think that it's very difficult. There's language barriers. It's going to take too long. It's expensive. And now they come up with hiring a CRO, and they can't find reasonably priced options for them. So for a startup, it's very difficult for them to buy into a 3-year project that's going to cost them, $1 million or $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, whatever the number is based on the category of the product and requirement for a clinical trial or not. So they look at that and they say, well, they just put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
So I thought, if this is the true bottleneck, what if we could start up a CRO that enabled great companies to hire us on a shorter term basis, and we'll move the ball forward little by little as we go, and you can start and stop if you need to based on your cash flow situation. So we were taking on some risk there, but we also attracted some great companies that way, and we were flooded with great companies. We running the CRO, we got 49 approvals in 9 years.
My goodness.
And we
little by little. That doesn't sound like little by little.
It was pretty amazing. And of the private companies, a majority of them had either an IPO or a NASDAQ IPO or an M&A during the period when we were working with them on the project. And so a lot of great new technologies brought into Japan. But Tetsu, you asked me, how did I think of starting up a CRO? Basically, I was naive. I didn't know what I was talking. All I knew is that there's this bottleneck that exists, right? So somebody needs to clear out this bottleneck. And I said, okay, what does a company coming in absolutely need? They need a regulatory approval. So we need to figure this one out first. And now, why do people not hire a CRO? Well, it's too much money to commit for a long period of time. So let's just release that bottleneck and see what we can do. Now, I knew nothing about regulatory affairs at this time, so I needed to learn as I go. And fortunately, was able to bring some ex-colleagues, out of large companies. Who were willing to join in the mission and bring that forward, and brought us a lot of success and built a lot of fortunes for our clients and friends.
I'm laughing so hard because I totally understand what that shock when you start. Like, I jumped over to the CRO side also, not because it was fascinating or anything, because I got married and I wanted to work from home, and that's how I decided to go over to the CRO side, where I could work from home. I had a chance to do that. But boy, that was a huge shock. Like, the first time in my life that I took a sick leave in my career was the first few months at the CRO. So, but I learned very quickly. I mean, if I had to do it again, I'd do it again, but with a lot more fear, I guess.
Yeah,
but
sometimes being naive can help.
Yeah, exactly.
We take that jump, yeah.
So let's talk about Heka. All right. So Heka is mainly in licensing, I understand, but you're also not building a company around it, or are you, like, how are you involved in the companies that you're helping come into Japan? Investments or just consulting?
Yeah, thank you. So after selling the CRO, we wanted to make sure that we're not becoming a consulting company again, but we do have an aspect of consulting. I'll explain. So our primary motivation is to acquire the commercial rights for great innovations from around the world. So we're licensed. So we have marketing authorization holder license for pharmaceuticals, cell and gene therapy, regenerative medicine, all categories of medical devices, and also in vitro diagnostics. So
that's tremendous. I mean, for those who don't really know, in Japan, you actually need a designated marketing authorization holder. So that's what you guys would do on behalf of these companies, right?
Right. So as long as you have the marketing authorization holder license, you can also be a designated marketing authorization holder for an overseas company that wants to be the holder of the license themselves. So to my knowledge, we're the only company in Japan that has all four of these marketing authorization MAH licenses.
All four, you mean for MedTech and for devices? Pharma? what you mean, like 4 types?
That's right. So all categories of devices, drugs, regenerative medicine, and in vitro diagnostics.
Wow.
We can handle.
I mean, while you're at it.
Yeah, so we can do that all, and so this is, you know, of value to us, because what we're trying to build is we're trying to build, we're trying to be a great platform for commercialization. And as I said, our primary motivation is to have into our own portfolio a portfolio of great innovations that we can then sell once we get over the finish line. But there's also a number. We're very open to different types of models. So a company may want to license to us. They may be in a position where they are looking for investment. We can make an investment in order to get the commercial rights in Japan. They may be in a position to pay us, and they want to hold the marketing authorization themselves, and they want us to be the designated marketing authorization holder instead of the licensee. We can do that too. So there's a number of different ways that we're willing to partner, and also partnering with us enables the originator company to make a shift later on. So you're not shutting down any doors. So if you come to us and we say, okay, we'll get your approval for you, maybe they're paying for that approval if they want to hold the license themselves. Maybe we're paying for it if we've in-licensed it, but we're open to both. So we get that through, and then the company may say, okay, we want HekaBio to be our designated marketing authorization holder for the next 3 years. And then we're going to come into Japan with our own office and we're going to take it over. Great. Or maybe Novartis comes in and buys their entire company. Well, they don't want to have a difficult situation in Japan that they have to unwind that hampers their ability to have that dream exit, right? And so we're never in the way. We're always rowing in the same direction. We're happy to have termination clauses in there. It helps for us to be a shareholder in the company to ensure that everybody's on the same page as well, we find. So these are some of the mechanisms that we use to make sure that it's a true partnership and a way. I think you hear the word win-win all the time, but I think it's almost not true as often as it should be. But we think that the win-win scenario, we've figured out how to create that, and we think that it's true in our case.
Well, if you're putting your skin in the game, I mean, there's no better way to demonstrate skin, the authenticity, I guess, of your desire to make it a win.
So Rob, are you mainly working with commercial or near commercial assets right now?
That was my question too. Yeah.
Can be, but we're also happy to go with earlier stage companies. I would say for the in-licensing, sweet spot of our business, we're looking at phase 2 ready drugs or regenerative medicine products.
Is that where you started for the Alpha DART? Tell us a little bit about Alpha DART as an example to illustrate, I guess, what you guys do.
Right. And so just to back up a second, so that's for the drug side, right? And then for the device side, we're looking at products that have already a prototype or sort of they have design lock, and they have some level of human data available for our scientific team to take a look at and understand the likelihood of technical and regulatory success and look at it that way. So device drugs, we look at, broadly speaking, early stage, but to a degree validated and de-risked.
So that's the stage. Clinical stage.
Clinical stage. That's right. Yeah. So if we were waiting until a product is already commercialized, then the in-licensing probably would be out of our range of expense to be able to pull off, right? So we need to be a little bit quicker than the average, Japanese pharma or device company that's looking for later stage proven technologies that they're in licensing, right? So we're looking for regional or Japan only, and early clinical stage for our in-licensing business.
But never
And then
for IND.
yeah.
Or IND is too early for you?
Yes, it is. Yeah, at this point, yes. Yeah. So for Alpha Tau, which thank you for bringing that one up. Alpha Tau, great company, and we partnered with them early. They had some clinical data that they were developing, early clinical data out of Israel and Europe, and we took a look at that and really. Were swayed by the founding team and the dynamic CEO, the technical, the scientific founders, and found that to be an amazing program that we wanted to partner with. So we made an investment in the company at a time when that was validating for them, helped them to tip the dominoes of other financial investors to come in. That really helped them to get started on their fundraise and validate their program with a partner that like us, and bring it forward in Japan. So for them, it also took a lot of guts for them because we were a very early new company at that point. Of course, we had the track record from the CRO, but it was really, we had developed a personal relationship through multiple visits to their headquarters in Israel, multiple visits by them to Japan, and taking them around to see the key opinion leader doctors. And it's important also for us to see the reaction of the key opinion leader doctors in country. For a new technology, our team can say, yeah, we believe in that, but you need to pick very wisely the right key opinion leaders in Japan in the right sequence, right? So, if you're going after the National Cancer Center top doctor, then you need to approach them first before you go to someone else who's going to be a subsidiary, a subordinate key opinion leader, right? So you need to do that in the right way, as you know.
Yes.
But so doing that all in the right way, but then finding out, observing the body language and the how are these key opinion leaders, are they really believing the story that we're hearing? Because every new technology requires a leap of faith, right? So are these key opinion leaders willing to stake their career, their reputation? Maybe, the last 5 years of their career could be highly focused on this one technology. Are they willing to make that bet? So that's a really important stage gate for us to look the doctors in the eye and understand how enthusiastic they are. Because as you know, many people can have a meeting in Japan and they can come away feeling that it was very positive, but it goes nowhere. And so people who are not used to living and interacting in Japan can have business meetings, doctors meetings, and you have great feedback. Okay, everybody's friends now, but it goes nowhere because it was just polite false enthusiasm. So we're very good at understanding what's real and what's not. And that's very important for our diligence process too, because we're putting our money and our time on the line in order to move programs forward. So understanding the true doctor feedback is super important.
So one of the things in the prep call, or the prep before, you mentioned the speed of development in Japan.
Yeah.
I guess over the last 30 years, speed has been very slow, or that's the impression. Like, especially with Alpha Tau and whatnot, and even with your experience in CRO, is that changing?
Absolutely. So we think, the PMDA, the regulatory authority, they have done a fantastic job. I have so much respect for the PMDA, the leaders at the top and the people on the files at the working end level as well. They really have done an amazing job at rationalizing the regulation to remove unnecessary steps. So there was a point early in our CRO career where we needed to repeat a phase 1 clinical trial that had been done earlier in Taiwanese patients in Taiwan. And so, that was a waste of $2 million and a year to get that phase 1 study done. And the results were exactly the same as the Taiwanese study. Now, the PMDA knows that that was ridiculous, but finally they changed the rule. So you don't have to repeat phase ones, as long as the phase one is looking reliable. So really the things that everybody knew was reasonable and rational to deregulate, to rationalize, they've done what they can. And there's news on an ongoing basis about further deregulation and further harmonization with overseas regulators as well. So the PMDA has done a fantastic job. And that's
you were
really, I say
mentioning
that
before when we were talking that Japan's, the PMDA's review time was actually faster than the US. Was this last year or something? The data?
Yes.
I didn't know
2025, yeah. 2025
Wow.
for the first time ever, the PMDA in comparison with the US and EU was the fastest of the three regulators for drug files.
Mhm.
Review period. Yeah. So they're very proud of that. And they hope that
I'm
they
very
can
proud of that.
they hope they can keep that up. And for our experience, we started the Alpha Tau Medical Alpha DART system project. We thought that Europe was going to be much faster than us in getting an approval, but we ended up surpassing and zooming by not only Europe but US as well to get the approval here in Japan first. So I think it really surprised a lot of people, including, so if you look back over the history, there are certain programs that have been simultaneously approved in the medical device world, simultaneous approval in Japan and the US. So collaborative multinational studies that have been done, either simultaneous or near simultaneous. And some of those were done by us back at the CRO in the CRO days, but others exist in the record. But for a program that has an independent Japan track, and a Japan clinical trial that was not part of a multinational collaborative study, this is the first time ever that Japan has approved before the US or Europe as a medical device, new category medical device. So this is really a great feather in the cap of the PMDA to show that they really can be faster than people thought. So I think there's a lot of innovators out there around the world that think that Japan, great opportunity. We know it's a huge market. It may be the fourth largest market in the world. It may be the third in our category, it may even be the second in our category. We'd like to get there eventually, but as a small company that needs to focus on the US market first, we leave it for later. So I don't think they make a conscious decision to deeply look at Japan and then write it off. I think they just make a decision to leave it for later and, out of sight, out of mind. Japan is far away, difficult to understand. It's a black box. But what if you could get your Japan approval without having spent any additional money, if you found a good partner that could help to motor that forward? And what if you could what if you could get an approval in Japan simultaneous or even faster than your US approval? We think, and we've seen in the past, that the approval in Japan can build the company's value by at least 10%. So if you can do that and say to yourself, hey, we've got our US clinical strategy together, why not add some Japan sites to that clinical study? Why and the Japan partner can take over the budget for the Japan side. It's going to actually save us money on our US budget because we're offloading 10 to 20% of the cases to Japan. Why not do that? Why not get a free simultaneous approval? It's going to build a lot of value.
I mean, it's even more than that. Japan is the portal, well, for all intents and purposes, to the wider Asian region. Mm-hmm. So get a PMDA stamp of approval, and suddenly a lot of these other regulatory authorities in these Asian countries will respect your asset and just welcome you into their market. So
Exactly right. Yeah, across ASEAN, that's particularly true, but also into certain countries in the Middle East, etc. So Japan approval doesn't help you too much in China, so that's sort of a separate process.
Don't go there.
Fair enough. Fair enough, but it certainly helps you in ex-China Asia Pacific, and all the way across to Middle East as well.
So Rob, with what you're doing, and especially with AlphaDart and whatnot, as well as all the iPSC approvals that are kind of catching the headlines for getting approved in Japan, one thing that keeps on bothering me nowadays is the whole MFN policy and how that affects the market. Like Japan first approval, does that hurt? Obviously it wasn't the case before, but is there a risk now for this strategy?
Yeah, so that's a very good point, and I think it's important to pick the right asset and the right target pricing so that you don't hurt yourself on the MFN side. And the consultants will tell you that MFN is less scary than most people think of, because it's a fairly complex calculation. So it's not a one-to-one. So if you have a lower price in Japan, how much is that going to affect a potential US price? There's a lot of different calculations and filters that goes through that dampens the impact, right? But also Japan is not afraid to issue very high reimbursement pricing as long as it's an orphan product or a small patient target population. So they know that Japan as a single payer country, they look at the overall budget impact to a drug approval, a device approval. What's it going to cost us in terms of the patient numbers at this particular level? But as you know, there have been some very expensive price listings lately, even very recently, that are shocking. So Japan is really not afraid to give a very high reimbursement for a targeted population. They want to encourage the innovation. They want to encourage faster approvals, and they're not afraid to reward innovation with high reimbursement, is the way that we look at it. But it needs to be taken on a product by product basis to make sure that the cadence is correct. So should you look for simultaneous approval and price listing? Should you look for Japan first? Is that okay? Is that safe? Should you go for US first, followed quickly by Japan on the price listing? So as you know, for drugs, once you get your approval and you're able to go through the cost plus the cost accounting method, you can get a really good pricing, highly, very beneficial pricing approval. And the other thing to remember about Japan is that even if your reimbursement pricing is going to be lower than the US, it's going to be typically higher than Europe or any other countries that you look at. But simultaneously, once you get approval and price listing, it's a promise from the government that says that wherever this product is used, any clinic, any hospital where it can be used, it's going to be reimbursed at the same price. So there's no country around the world that has that same promise. In the US, you need to have an entire reimbursement team to get you reimbursement approvals across different private payers. It's going to take a lot of resource and a lot of time to get that. Day one of price listing, you can sell anywhere and everywhere in Japan. So this is really something that people should also consider that may not be fully understood.
And patients get treated all corners of Japan as well. So patient access,
that's right,
is amazing.
That's right.
We're just busting these myths about slowness, about low pricing, all that. It's all like people outside of Japan should just know about these things, and then and as long as they're aware of it, then suddenly it's like, why not? And the timing is perfect right now with the yen being devalued. It's great for people coming into Japan right now. All these preclinical studies, tox studies, even clinical studies. It used to be like when I was running clinical studies back in 2012 or so, it was the most expensive country in the world. Even further, higher than the US. But today it's like half price. Like I'm sitting on some of these bid defense with a tox study. It's like 2 million in the US and it's like 1 million in Japan. They've got an in-house interpreter, all their documentation in English for the FDA. It's just like there's just no reason to skip Japan, especially if we have Rob and HekaBio who can facilitate the entry and access this market. Right.
Very happy to do that. And I fully agree. So there's something that, we can do for any innovator out there that wants to just take a look at Japan. You haven't decided what your strategy is, but you want some information. We are always happy to talk with innovators. Of course, our number one goal is to be able to in-license additional products for our portfolio, of course. But there are many cases also that the product is either too big for us, too small for us. It's not the right indication. Not a perfect fit for us. If something is a great fit for Japan and it's not for us, we don't let it slip through our fingers and fall away. We're very diligent on our follow-up. And I believe we can be a very generous partner for providing information, guidance. So for example, a company comes to us and we say, no, this is not for us, but we're happy to engage with you on a success fee basis to find you the best partner. If we manage to succeed with that, you can give us a portion of the upfront payments that you get, this kind of thing. And we're also very willing to provide free assessments as well. So we've got a team that's doing the assessments. We've got AI tools that help with that, and then we run that through our models for different cost scenarios for what a company should expect in terms of cost and timeline. So you can just have that in your back pocket. If you want to talk to us, we're happy to talk and provide valuable information that may be useful for you now, may be useful for you 2 years from now.
I think, I think I would speak for all of us here that beyond our own little company, we're ecosystem builders, we're ecosystem connectors, and we really want Japan to flourish, take back the leadership position that Japan had back in the 80s, 90s when 1 out of 3 new chemical entities came out of the US and 1 out of 3 came out of Japan, and then the rest of the world shared the remaining third. But today it's like 2 out of 3 comes out of the US. It's all so concentrated and everybody's sharing the rest. So we want to change that. We want to make the value flow into Japan, and also these Japanese companies. We want to feature them on the global stage. That's what we're about here at the BioBridge, and then each of us individually contributing to the ecosystem. So we are winding down, coming into I guess I would say that the more philosophical stage of this interview. Like my name is Tetsu. It's Tetsugaku in Japanese means philosophy. This for those who don't know. And it's actually the same character, not the iron. It's the other Tetsu. Yeah. But
Tetsu, one of these days I'm gonna challenge you to do something with my name.
Do you have a Japanese middle name somewhere in there, like Makoto or something? Ibrahim Makoto. Because Rob, I don't know if you knew, but Ibrahim is born and raised in Japan, so he speaks perfect Japanese.
I do remember that from when we met last year.
Yeah, I know. I think you're board of director at YAS, I think, Yokohama International School, right? So I went to your rival school at one point, St. Joseph's, before it closed down, and had some friends at YAS. So I lived down the hill basically of Yamate.
Right.
Yeah.
Local stuff. But let's come back to the philosophical question we ask all our guests, especially somebody like you who've been there for decades. You've seen the ecosystem evolve in Japan and around the world. What's the past trend that's now leading into the next 5 years that you see happening? Where will we be by 2030 or 2035? How's everything going to move?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more, still more deregulation and expediting from the authorities.
Music
we're going to see more accommodative pricing from the ministry in national health insurance as well.
That's encouraging. Everybody I talk to says it's never going to change, never going to change, never going to change. You see that changing.
I do. And those are definitely in the discussions because, while the, at the ministry side, they're also very concerned with, the overall budget of the country. They don't want to stifle innovation. So when they see that happening, they know that it's time to make a change. And also what we're going to see is somewhat of a new market emerging. So we have the official reimbursed healthcare market, so under national health insurance. And I think in the next 20 years, we're going to see a private market or private pay market that's as big as the national health insurance reimbursed market. So we're going to see enormous growth. Right now, under national health insurance, we see about 10% growth at the high end branded pharmaceutical side. So that's the highest growth that we'll see. But in the patient pay market, including in cell therapy that can be legally administered in Japan, pretty uniquely around the world, we're going to see a huge growth there in that market. We're going to see growth in the market that is funded by life insurance companies under new and creative life insurance policies that the government's encouraging. So the government is thinking very creatively about how to continue to build the healthcare market. So the healthcare market is one of the strategic growth pillars of Japan without bankrupting the country. So, have the growth engine of national health insurance, but have that supplemented and even matched over the next 20 years with this private pay market that's coming in. And we're also seeing that there's an inbound medical tourism market because, as so take if you needed to get some sort of surgery for cancer, and that the outcomes and the survivability and the recurrence rates in Japan are better than any country around the world. So, if you're living in a country that's fairly close by to Japan, why wouldn't you come in? Of course, there's an affordability index for, you need to pay out of pocket for that. But I think there's going to be more and more people looking to Japan for those medical tourism types of things. And there's also a growing longevity market in the cell therapy area as well, where more and more, and I'm not talking about, the untried or unproven therapies in a clinic in Ginza somewhere. I'm talking about real science that's proven and is clinically relevant, supported by real doctors with a Japanese medical license, and managed in the best way, and we see that market growing as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for growth.
Is that where Heka's aiming also? Because I know your latest asset is a cell therapy.
We are. Yes, we are. So we're starting up a clinical trial for approval and price listing under national health insurance, and we're also launching in patient pay as well at the same time. Now we need to be careful. So the indication is not the same, right? And our clinical trial is going to be in moderate Alzheimer's disease. So this is a mirror of the phase 2 clinical trial that's going on in the US right now. So repeating that protocol here in Japan seems to be the right way to do that. And then to take advantage of Japan's Safety Act for Regenerative Medicine, we will have a different target to be announced soon for that. But we view that as an opportunity to, I think there's a lot of patients around the world, not even patients, but call them people who are interested in longevity, anti-inflammation. Maybe those people have a genetic risk. They're APOE4 homozygous people that know that because they did a Ancestry.com test at one point, and they know, oh my gosh, I've got a late onset Alzheimer's, for sure I'm going to get it. But I've got many years before that happens. What if we could design a program that enabled people to never to avoid that onset? So looking at potential avoidance, prevention, and general anti-inflammation and longevity play is what we're thinking of, but to be announced soon.
That's amazing. Tremendous. Great stuff to look forward to. Thank you so much, Rob, for sharing. I think we could go on for another 3 hours. Definitely going to hopefully have you on again in the near future to pick your brain. But definitely, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for today's session with the CEO of HekaBio. If you want to find Rob, find him on, I said LinkedIn is probably the best place to reach out, and also on HekaBio's website. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Talk to you in about 2 weeks.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.